and I agree with you. It's a governance issue. So we need now fresh ideas, transformative leadership, if you like, visionary governments, people that think that are in touch with the world that's moving, current things that are moving.
Yeah, what works, what would work.
And also what Africans want.
Yeah.
We should be able to meet halfway, because continuously protesting without having dialogue and seeing what the other party is offering on the table, given the current status of the economy, the risks that it comes with it, with security, we could find ourselves in what we call a catch-22. Of course, corruption is a big issue.
I don't think there's any country or region in the world that is not struggling with corruption. I think it becomes very problematic when it is more than the development. So the threshold is 80-20%. When they give 80 and steal 20, the people don't fight you. But when you steal 80 and give 20 to the people. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us from, and welcome to Tek4Peace Africa, an authentic Memo Goma. My goodness, I'm happy to have you here. Again, if you're new here, we do amazing things. We address issues that affect the African continent, especially the youth, development, empowerment, peace building. And on today's video, we have a guest from, well, actually, associated and affiliated kind of with the AU. So we are going to be grilling him. Properly grilling him on policies in Africa and what opportunities actually exist for African youth within the AU outside the country. Because like in Kenya, our president is telling us he's creating opportunities for us outside Kenya, outside Africa. I don't know, do you think we are supposed to be leaving Africa or actually building in Africa?
First, let me say thank you so much for inviting me to come to this platform. It's my first time being on a YouTube platform, I should say.
Yeah.
And I'm very honored to be here and also to be in Kenya around this time because of what's actually taking place. The Gen Z protests that have been taking, I think, third month, second. You guys are the poster child of most young people on the continent. So asking that question that you asked, should we be leaving the continent? Ideally, no, for me.
Yeah.
Ideally, no. I'd love to see Africans, particularly African young people, staying on the continent, traveling the continent, enjoying the continent, building the continent. So if you're Kenyan, you should be more than happy to come and help build South Africa, go build Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, should stay on the continent. Unfortunately, most Africans are leaving the continent illegally at times through the desert, taking the Mediterranean Sea, some are drowning because opportunities seem to be dwindling for young people in most countries.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Okay, thank you for letting us know what you think. If you actually disagree with my statement, you'd be in trouble. No pressure. I won't just say. If you said we were meant to be leaving the continent.
No, there's nothing wrong with Africans leaving the continent.
But it needs to be by choice, not because circumstances have cornered you to feel the need to exit your country.
Like I said, it's very unfortunate that for most young people, they have to look elsewhere, particularly Europe, for greener pastures. We also have some cases of young people going to Middle Eastern countries and at times being abused.
Yeah.
Largely because there are not enough opportunities. Our economies are not growing fast enough, sadly.
Yeah.
To be able to create jobs and opportunities for young people on the continent.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, because we've already started, what is your name? And welcome to this platform.
Thank you. It was such a tough start to the conversation.
The icebreaker.
The icebreaker was
the hard part is over. Don't worry.
Okay. My name is Lennon Monyae. I come from South Africa, Johannesburg. I work with an organ of the African Union called the African Peer Review Mechanism. What it does is that it promotes democracy and good governance on the continent. And I know throughout this conversation we'll be talking a lot about governance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think there's any African country that actually has good leaders, that practices good governance based on your experience, your research, and what you're doing with APRM? Or are we consistently dealing with the same problems over and over again? We are seeing revolutions. Started with Kenya being very big, the Gen Zs on the streets spilled over to Uganda. We are seeing it in Nigeria, young people on the streets complaining about bad governance. The economy is very tough for young people, the lack of opportunities. So what is the problem? And are there any case studies of better or good governance within the continent?
We do have a governance challenge on the continent. We should be very, very, very honest about the current situation on the continent. And some of the governance challenges that we have are structural and will take generations to fix. But some of them are really things that can be fixed. Issues of corruption, petty corruption. It's very difficult for young people to get services. Some of them issues of the economy. At the end of the day, with the what we actually have is what we call backslides of democracy on the continent.
Yeah, there's a decline of it.
There's a decline of it. We all agree on that.
But that's a global issue right now.
It's a global issue, but what has worsened our situation on the continent was the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
But before the COVID-19 pandemic, we also had the global economic crisis. We tend to forget about it.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of shocks to the system, global system, that to some extent affects Africa worse more than others.
Yeah.
So our economies in Africa, to some extent, were already struggling before the pandemic.
Yeah.
They were not producing jobs. There were very few African countries that were recording more than 5% annual economic growth on an annual basis. Then the pandemic hit. And out of that, unemployment worsened. Those that were poor became poorer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think the reason why we're seeing some of these protests is the result of that, other than just representative democracy not bearing the fruits of the dividends of livelihood, jobs, good education, good healthcare, etc. So Africans, young people, have been told, go to school, you'll get jobs. So you study hard, you go to University of Nairobi, you graduate, then you have to be an Uber driver, but you are a qualified medical doctor or qualified teacher. You will be enraged and you will be upset. That's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the streets, because a lot of young people, Gen Z, are actually qualified, have gone to school. The system has taught them that you can be a hustler. In this case, in Kenya, you can be a hustler and you get a livelihood, and you're struggling. So who are you going to take out the frustrations on? Those that represent you, those are supposed to create jobs for you, which is not only the private sector, it includes the state. So I think if we fix the issue of the economy, we're going to deal with a big chunk of the issues that we have.
Isn't it vice versa? Isn't it, if we fix the governance problem, the economy is going to be fixed?
That's
or is it the economy then the governance?
You do have countries where you're right. Actually, I think you're actually absolutely right to that. And I think we agreed when we first opened up that we have a governance challenge. But the governance challenge then translates to the economy. But representative democracy that we have, right, is not necessarily produced lately the fruits of a good economy. There are other countries that don't have the democracy that we have, but are doing well economically. For example, China. But they are doing well economically. So I want to agree with you and say we need to deal with the governance issue. And young people are part of the solution. Some of the research that we've picked up is that young people are not showing up to vote.
Yeah, there's a voter apathy in many countries. Yeah.
So young people are not participating in the formal channels of choosing the leadership. Not only the head of state.
Yeah.
Talking the counties, I'm talking at times the governors. But we're quick to see them in numbers on the streets. We have to also internalize this and look ourselves in the mirror as young people and say, okay, when we have a chance to actually elect our representatives, why are we not electing people that look like us, that are honest, that are educated, that shares the characteristics of what we want, that are not stealing, that are not putting heavy taxes on us, and etc., etc. All the things that we don't want as Gen Z.
Yeah.
So we are participating, I think, a lot in uninvited spaces or in spaces that don't make the impact on the system. So, for instance, if you go online, on Twitter, X, former Twitter, if you go on TikTok, the people that are able to vote and participate actually don't, but they get that abundance and they're online. I think it's an indictment on us as young people, and platforms such as this one should actually continue encouraging young people to stand for office so that we can have more younger faces that are educated, that have the good ideas as well. Because there are so many of us that are also very corrupt.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. The country where I come from, there was the feast must fall. And you saw what happened. Young people were able to come together and make meaningful change to the system. At times, such things are needed. But my biggest worry, and I think we spoke about this before you started rolling, is that we don't have best practices in terms of these mass movements and people protesting and forcefully taking out their governments.
Yeah. We
don't have a best practice of the desired outcome. At times it tends to be worse, and constitutional changes of government, coup d'etats, civil wars. So I know the protests in Kenya are still ongoing, but a caution is needed. So what? We're protesting and we're stopping things. If President Ruto goes with now, because there seems to be changing of goalposts, right? The bill is out of the way. The president has fired certain people within government.
Who he rehired, repositioned the same individual.
I might not have all the details because I don't live here. I follow online.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
I appreciate the fact that you know about.
Yeah, but I know that the state, or if you like, the president, has made certain concessions to Gen Z.
But you see, I think that's where we go wrong with leadership and governance, where when we demand change and better governance, and we begin to see it, we call it concessions being made. No, that person is mandated to listen to us because we elected them. They are there because of us. It's not a place for privilege. They're not there because they're on merit. It's because we decided we want to be represented in certain ways. So when we demand change and you make concessions, we're not supposed to be saying, "Oh, thank you for listening to us." No, you should have listened from the beginning. You should have acted right from the beginning.
My worry is that it will turn into anarchy, right? Not while me as an individual, I've stood in solidarity with Gen Z young people protesting. Of course, don't support the violence, the burning and looting and all that.
Yeah.
But those are some of the symptoms of mass movements. We've seen it everywhere. My worry is that the spaces again that are formal within the state are opened up. There are no deliberate efforts to push people to then say, let's have a conversation.
Mm.
There are opportunities for formal participation based on the system that we have. Of course, we need to reform the system in terms of better representative democracy. But we need, to some extent, to get out of the uninvited spaces, the keyboard, the X, if we are actually, as young people, asked to
go vote.
We need to go and vote.
I agree with that.
We need to, if you say you don't like this party and what this person that is representing you, we need to find channels of supporting peers that we trust that can do a better job. If we as young people are given an opportunity to dialogue, I think it's a good opportunity to actually change things. Let's go and actually dialogue. We should be able to meet halfway, because continuously protesting without having dialogue and seeing what the other party is offering on the table, given the current status of the economy, the risks that it comes with security, we could find ourselves in what we call a catch-22, where, like I said, at risk of ambitious people unconstitutionally taking power. We've seen it in many countries, and we are not unique or bulletproof. So we must be very careful as young people in the way we also protest and show our unhappiness with the government. As much as we have the right to actually protest and be governed well, we also should be very careful, because we only have this one Kenya and we can't destroy it. It's such a beautiful country to live in.
Well put, totally agree that. Now let's move from Kenya and look at Africa generally and the African Union that you're affiliated with through APRM. What opportunities exist for young people? Because we're looking at building Africa. How can they be engaged better? Where should they and how should they position themselves to take advantage of these opportunities that exist?
This is a topic that excites me, largely because I've been myself personally involved in galvanizing young people wherever I go. Even agreeing to come to this YouTube channel that I'm also used to being on YouTube. I think it's part and parcel of the process of, to some extent, getting young people interested in institutions, not only the African Union, regional institutions, local institutions, participatory institutions. African Union wants to come closer to the people. For a very long time, I think the African Union has been far from people. It was seen, at times still seen, as a state representative, heads of state-led institution. When, if you look at it closer and some of its institutions and programs and activities, they are increasingly getting people closer in terms of participating, public platforms, dialogues. So, first of all, the African Union is based in Addis Ababa, the headquarters. But some of its institutions are spread throughout the continent, including regional economic blocks. So I work for one called the African Peer Review Mechanism. It was started in 2003, first as an institution of heads of states to speak to each other frankly about governance. I think we as Africans had just got out of what are called structural adjustment programs, external powers, in particular former colonial powers, the Bretton Woods institutions, World Bank, IMF, having their hands mingling in African governance and prescribing what to do for African governments, African people. And as a result, it disadvantaged a lot of African people, because what they were doing, they were pushing the state far from people.
Yeah.
Privatization of most state institutions was one of them. So the wisdom of certain leaders, amongst them I mentioned a few, President Beki, President Sancho, President Wade of Senegal, and others, they came together to create an institution where when an African head of state or African country is behaving or not governing well, they can be told by others. So it's peer learning. First it starts with self-assessment. A country looks itself in the mirror and tells itself, okay, as a country, what are we doing well? What are we struggling with? And writes a report. But the whole process is very participatory. Right? In the end, when the report is done, the review, other countries then ask questions and then take lessons. This happens every 4 years. Kenya has undertaken this process twice. In 2017, it undertook a second one. There's also targeted, of which I was actually recommending that we might need a targeted one on youth, just so that we can ventilate. So it's an opportunity to ventilate and talk. And Kenya has gone further to cascade it to county reviews. Today actually was the first time I was in Nairobi and I went to a county peer review exercise. So as much as you can say some things are not well, there's some things within Kenyan democracy that are doing well, that are best practice. So there's no any other country that has actually done a county, like a local, like taking the whole continental blueprint of the APRM and domesticating it. Yeah. So that's just the APRM you have as an entry point for democracy and participating for ordinary people, civil society, or if you like, non-state actors, right? There's other institutions. There's what's called ECOSOC, that deals with civil society organizations, NGOs, and etc. It's doing very well. So if you an NGO or a civil society organization, you can be accredited to them and participate and find ways of learning from other civil society organizations and state building and etc. But the one that I think you're excited about is the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
Absolutely.
ACFTA, which is something that's new and fresh and that I think all young people should be excited about, particularly entrepreneurs, particularly those that are unemployed, because for the first time, Africa is opening up as a bloc to trade together. This is not a new idea. It's an idea that's been around since the early 50s when Ghana got independent. Some of these ideas with the founding fathers of the OAU, Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere. Funny enough, majority of those that make my heart warm are East African. Julius Nyerere, in West Africa, Kwame Nkrumah, in Southern Africa, number of them, President Kaunda. This idea of opening up Africa first for movement of people. It's an idea that the African Union has but hasn't achieved, of free movement of people, which is attached to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Yeah. Free movement of people. So you, as a Kenyan, can come to South Africa without needing a visa, without the constraints of too much screening that has been there. At times, moving, even for me, as someone who works for the African Union, moving from one country to another is a complete nightmare. While it's easy for non-Africans at times to move freely. Yeah. So what the ACFTA is trying to do is to make it easy for Africans to consume African goods, to trade amongst themselves. I think the last time I checked, inter-African trade was at 15%. Like, definitely less than 20%, whilst other regions, in particular Europe, our former colonizers, they are up to 60%, 70%. They're trading with each other. So when they trade with each other, they keep money and services first cheaper to
the talent,
yeah. All these issues that not all. The issue of, I think, unemployment. If we increase trade amongst African countries, we keep the jobs here in Africa. So there's no need.
By Africans.
Yes, by Africans.
Yeah.
Now, this jacket, I can 100% tell you that it's, if you look inside, it's not made in Africa. It's probably made in China, in Turkey. But if I'm wearing a jacket made in Kenya, while in South Africa, I've made some jobs in Kenya, the transportation of it,
it's a whole ecosystem.
It's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
So countries have started signing and ratifying, to some extent, trade. Still, to some extent, it's infant phase, but it's something that for young people that are going to inherit it and be custodians, it's something, as much as we are protesting and we've got so many issues, it makes me smile because there's something to hang on to and say in the near future, now, at least with something we can hang on to, there's a possibility of progress in free movement of people, in regional integration, in even the APRM process that I was explaining, in standardizing and sharing practices, something that we've not done. We've been isolated from each other as Africans, as a legacy, of course, of colonialism.
Yeah.
There's even exciting part. There's even a protocol on women and youth within the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which to some extent would then promote and make it even easier for women who have been trading. Women actually have been trading more regionally. If you go to most border posts, land in particular, you see women carrying stuff, crossing. So the biggest beneficiary of this will be then women and young people, young entrepreneurs that have got startups, new businesses. So that's, I think, one exciting thing. There's obviously other things within the African Union because it's a broad institution that deals with so many other issues. There's issues of peace and security. They've got ideas around technology. Yeah. They've got ideas around the African diaspora. Yeah. Because of our legacy, which shouldn't define us, our legacy of colonialism, slavery, and now lately of Africans actually moving out because at times there are no opportunities. We've got a big diaspora population. There are many opportunities or if you like, entry points for participation. People, majority of young people that I associate with or I've interacted with, they tend to look on the thematic area of democracy and political governance as an entry point. And there's other issues of climate change, preservation of the seas. There's an idea around opening up the skies to make it easy for air transport, opening up African skies because it's very difficult to fly.
Traveling within Africa is more difficult than traveling outside as an African.
So certainly,
and more costly.
That's true. So you have to go to France.
Yeah.
Or you have to go to Belgium, to Europe, or
to Dubai.
To Dubai.
Yeah. Then come back into the continent just because that's the cheaper method.
Why? Because there are these various taxes and laws that have been put. Some of them is laws that were put even before independence that makes it difficult for us to travel. So some of these things, again, we'll go back to what you said, and I agree with you. It's a governance issue. So we need now fresh ideas, transformative leadership, if you like, visionary governments, people that think that are in touch with the world that's in current things that are moving.
Yeah, what works, what would work.
And also what Africans want.
Yeah.
Particularly.
No, what they want for their pockets.
Yes. Of course, corruption is a big issue.
I don't think there's any country or region in the world that is not struggling with corruption. I think it becomes very problematic when it is more than the development. So the threshold is 80-20%. When they give 80 and steal 20, the people don't fight you. But when you steal 80 and give 20 to the people, what do you expect?
Yeah, when I was at school, a couple of years back, they were talking about corruption in East Asia, in the countries that academics are called the East Asian Tigers. These are Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, that had more or less the economic development sort of level is some African countries. Then they were corrupt. They were corrupt leaders, but I think one of the studies, they were corrupt, but they were not sending the money to. They were corrupt while making jobs, creating industry, and making domestic industry pick up and create jobs. That's why you have Samsung, you have Huawei, all these giants in the tech world. We have an opportunity right now. I'm not saying we should be corrupt.
It's not all doomed.
Yeah, we have an opportunity. It's not all burdened. I think we have an opportunity because, one, young people throughout the continent have become woke.
Yeah.
Why are they woke? They're educated.
And they're tired.
And they're also tired.
Yeah.
Gen Z, the challenge that we have is we've got the bulge. We've been talking about it for a very long time. That we need to harness the demographic dividend.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that term. I think the African Union had a thing in 2017 where it said it's the year of youth. And the theme, the catchword there was, we need to harness the demographic dividend.
Yeah.
Because majority of our countries, more than 70%, are people under the age of 35.
Yeah.
Now, what has happened is that majority of them have primary school education and high school, and a big number now have high school. Some countries, a lot more have university higher education.
Yeah.
So, they can read budgets. We have technology to live feed into parliament and see how we are governed.
Yeah.
We see on social media how wealth is at times showcased by those that are within the political class.
Yeah.
It can't happen anymore.
Yeah.
Or it has to change. So we have an advantage in that we are embracing technology maybe at times way more than other regions. Although our internet penetration is very low in terms of access, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And at times it gets pulled out when we protest in some countries.
Yeah.
Pull off the internet. But we have an advantage of tech that we can, I believe, if we're governed well and there are good policies and they're implemented, can catapult us in all fields. It makes me smile because this is not what we had less than a decade ago.
Yeah.
Access to devices was very high. Now it has become slightly cheaper. Access to internet was impossible. You remember we used to go to cafes and spend hours.
Yeah.
You and I sit in cafes over...
I'm not that old.
with the mouse. Now from the phone you can... So even the mobilization that's happening politically, right?
Yeah.
we are seeing the advantages of it, but we also have disadvantages of it. False, fake news,
disinformation.
Yeah. So I think if we as Africans use the power of tech.
Do you think we're equipped with the skills and knowledge and interest to do that? Because some of the millennials, like in this country, in Kenya, that I have spoken to, who are seeing the Gen Z movement and now joined and supported by even the millennials and other generations, they tell me that we're very good at demanding, but not good at telling what we actually want and showing concrete plans and strategies to getting there.
I asked you when we started the conversation, I said, okay, the protest has been going on for a couple of months. It's tribeless,
leaderless
and faceless and all. That's good, it's different. And it's not the first time this has happened.
Yeah.
We've seen it in other parts of the world in terms of mobilization. But, so what?
What's the game plan? Yeah.
So, I think...
So do we have the knowledge, the skills, the capacity?
I don't think...
to take Africa to the next level?
At the moment, I don't think we have enough. We do have, but it's not enough. Okay. So I can tell you, for example, that even in what we're celebrating, in seeing young people using tech to learn and all, it's very... differs in some countries in terms of, for example, internet penetration. There are some countries that, even when you're in an urban setting, remember Africa is big.
Yeah.
Some countries are it. Kenya is celebrated for innovation.
The East African region is.
To some extent.
Yeah.
But I mean, please leave Mzee alone. Mpesa, for example, is something that even now, you guys are probably 10 years ahead. We don't have, I think some countries in Southern Africa, like Zimbabwe, have digital money. Some countries, there's no digital money.
Yeah.
Even some countries in Europe don't have digital money. So we are ahead. So we have some countries that are doing well and have skills, but it's to some extent, in most of the cases, it's those that are in urban and suburban areas that get access. So I think as much as our governments have started putting in policies, we mustn't forget the basics so that we can all move together. If we have big policies of getting on an annual basis to say, how many people do we get out of poverty? I think we can start having different conversations. We have, on an annual basis, we can take, in Kenya, we took out 10 million out of poverty. I don't know if those numbers are available in our stats.
Decline, unfortunately.
We need to get, that's, I think, if you're to elect me, I'm not campaigning.
Probably in Africa.
If you're to elect me as a representative, I need to get people out of poverty. I think that's the way to go. Once you get people out of poverty, they can, it's difficult to want to create. How do you create jobs when you're hungry? You're fixing your own stomach. So we need to get the basics right as Africans, as African countries. And it starts with us, with young people, the advocacy that we do. You shouldn't underestimate the work that you're doing now, because most young people don't even know what the African Union is and what they do, some of the challenges that are there, but they're on YouTube surfing, they're going to turn up and watch your YouTube videos. So I think those that are privileged and that come from privilege and access
have a mandate.
You and I
have a mandate.
Have to do this more in terms of wherever we are, on the back of our mind, we should know that, hey, we're the privileged ones. We have a generational mandate as us to open up spaces for more of us
Yeah.
for information sharing, because once you are informed, you are equipped to then know where to go for access. One of the challenges that we picked up at home was that the state has so many bursaries, education opportunities. People just don't know where to go and click and apply.
Yes.
Just giving you as a basic example.
Yeah.
So information sharing, we shouldn't forget certain legacy communications channels when talking to people.
Radio.
That's what I believe in that each one must teach one, and we should be able to share the opportunities and concertize each other so that we can go forward as a continent. And we've got so much potential as a continent.
And a long way to go.
Yeah, and a very long way to go.
I agree with you. I have enjoyed listening to you and having you here. Do you feel like you've been grilled?
You end up not grilling me. My biggest worry was because I wear two caps most of the time.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that at heart I'm an activist, but I also work in diplomacy, so I can't say things that can offend.
On camera. You can tell them in their ear.
I can say. So I want to commend you on the work that you're actually doing, and hopefully you scale it up more. I know you already have a lot of people that are following. Continue doing. The impact might not be seen today, but somewhere in the world, in Kenya, in the African diaspora, someone is going to listen and learn. So you're teaching people using the basic tools that you have.
My phone.
Yes, and I want to bless you and tell you that I foresee a studio scale up, continue doing this one day at a time. Progress will come, you impact people. Someone is going to say, hey, she's doing something great. Let me have access. Hey guys, if you're listening, she's looking for a studio.
I'm looking for
funding. She wants to. Yes. I'll be happy to connect you to some people that I know can potentially help, or even come to your channel and share knowledge. Yes. Thank you for inviting me. If I come back to Nairobi, or if you come to South Africa, we'll meet up. Maybe we can have a conversation. Maybe the protest will be over. We'll be having a different conversation.
I don't think people are just injecting. What we say on Twitter in Kenyan X is just inject and inject and inject. Maybe after tomorrow, people will stop injecting. So
I've got two big requests or pleas to young people. One, there's no need of using violence and burning the little infrastructure that we have.
Yeah.
That's one. The second one, when opportunities to participate formally in the structures that are there, please
show up. Vote. In or out, whoever you want.
Yes. But other than that, Kenyan young people have really motivated other young people to say they must be able to demand accountability from their leaders.
The blueprint.
Big ups to you.
Thank you. Yes. Before closing, I usually give my guests a chance to ask me a question. If you have any, no pressure. If you don't, that is okay, and we can say goodbye.
There are many people that will probably come to Kenya and visit. What's that one place? If someone comes to Nairobi, I've been here a couple of times, but hearing it from someone now, what do you call it, Nairobian? What do you say? Someone who stays in Nairobi. What's the place? If someone visits Nairobi, Kenya, they should arrive and not leave without
going there.
Just saying hello and see.
Well, if you're African, you already have parks in your country, probably. So usually the recommendation.
Other than the park.
I think it's highly dependent on what you really like. If you like sports, most places that are sporty like are outside. So like Karita, it's just out on the outskirts.
Karita.
Yeah.
What's Karita?
The forest. So they have zip lining because I love outdoors. It's really fun.
Hiking.
I love hiking. We don't have mountains in Nairobi. I think what we have in Nairobi is the park and a good nightlife.
Oh, yeah. true story. Yeah.
In Nairobi, is that much really? Don't visit Nairobi as much. Mostly meetings, official kind of engagements.
Yeah, and
Nairobians leave Nairobi to go enjoy.
I need to invite you to come down south to South Africa. Come visit Mozambique,
I might be
Zimbabwe, Mozambique. We share so much in common. In fact, I say we're cousins because when we speak in Kiswahili, I hear most of it.
Oh, really?
It's true.
That's interesting. Well, thank you for showing up. Thank you for creating time. For coming to Nairobi, I know it's with your work, but I mean, creating time outside work to be on this platform.
Thank you for inviting me, and greetings to your viewers.
So guys, please do like, subscribe, and share. What did you learn? What do you agree with? What don't you agree with? Maybe his perspective on governance. Not mine. Look at me throwing you under the bus. Drop a comment down below. Let me know who you want to see on this platform next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.